Good morning and happy Wednesday, folks. Will Tramp, also known as This F and GM here, ready to talk to you about Encounter Party, episode 7. I was very sick last week, so as a result, this episode is pretty darn late, and I'm very sorry about that. But hey, when nature calls with a heavy bludgeon, I don't think I used the right phrase there, but the point is I was not feeling well. Anyway, before we get started here, I should let you know that we do have a fair amount of spoilers in this. I usually do have spoilers, but I always like to warn you at home. All right, if you don't feel like watching any spoilers, you should check out one of my other videos because, hey, they don't have spoilers, they're just something else entirely. Okay, let's go ahead and get started here. Hit it, Tommy! What a great intro. In episode 7, A Tapestry of Tourism. That's kind of difficult to say. Tapestry of Tourism. I almost wanted to say a tourism of tapestry. We begin with the mesmerizing Andrew Krug. Dridian, played by Andrew, heads out into the city of Baldur's Gate looking for something. Everywhere he turns, we notice that he sees this symbol. Now, this symbol, we're not quite sure what it means, but we do know that at one point Dridian pulls out a blue headband, and we see on that headband a very similar looking symbol, although with the two portions kind of closed, and this resembles a closed eye. So I've taken this to mean that the symbol that Dridian has been seeing to be a symbol of the open eye. We'll see how long I get to call it that before it's named something else. These symbols pop up all over the place in graffiti, but not the cool kind of graffiti showing great murals, but instead just the kind of jerky graffiti where it's just a symbol and nothing else. That's so boring to see from the car. We then move on to Asher. Asher starts looking for people to ask about her sister, who has been missing for some time, it seems, or at least maybe Asher's the one who's been missing. I'm not entirely certain. Either way, Asher heads to the street looking for her sister. She stops and asks and tells the DM Brian that she'd like to speak with an NPC, and Brian gives her the option of creating an NPC to speak with. So she chooses a really busy baker, to which Brian immediately falls into character, having the baker be way too busy to actually speak with her. Classic Dungeon Master stuff there, Brian. So Asher pivots to seeing an old man. So Brian falls into character, and Asher has a conversation with a somewhat befuddled elderly gentleman. We learn that Asher's sister is involved somewhat with the theater. So Asher begins her conversation with the old man, asking about a show and seeing where she should go to see one if she were interested, kind of being a little tricksy with what she's really trying to do here. The old man mentions that they have a niece who's also in the theater. The old man rambles on for a bit, but eventually Asher cuts him off and sort of redirects him back to the question at hand, and she learns the location of a theater called the Loot Chest, and she bounds off as quickly as she can to get there, hoping to see sign of her sister. The Loot Chest, which is advertised all around the city, has a new play, Lovers in Line. And apparently, though, Asher discovers that it's closed until further notice. She makes a investigation check as prompted by Brian, and she is able to see some graffiti on the wall. Graffiti that looks like the symbol of the open eye. She meets a janitor outside of the Loot Chest who she questions about the symbol, and she learns that this symbol has been popping up all over the place, and that whoever is responsible for making it have eluded law enforcement, so no one's quite sure what this is all about. These symbols have been around for a few months. She also learns that the show, Lovers in Line, has been never actually open like it was supposed to. And she mentions that she has a sister involved who does costumes. Hey, my friend Cassie does costumes. Well, the janitor mentions that he has a niece who does theater, but that doesn't really go much anywhere else other than apparently a lot of people have nieces who do theater. After they get cleaned off, back to the graffiti. Once the graffiti, by the way, gets cleaned off of the walls, they always pop right back up, which is, again, part of how they kind of falls in the idea that whoever's doing it eludes law enforcement, because no matter what they do to try to wipe it out, people still keep putting them back on. She is informed that taverns may have more rumors as to what she needs, so she bounds off to the marketplace outside of Parliament to see if she can get any rumors not in the tavern. Now, Dridian's having no real luck with finding what he's looking for, but keeps seeing the symbols, so he eventually decides to head to a blacksmith. He finds himself standing in front of Glenna, a blacksmith, and asks her about elven artifacts, particularly blades, particularly magic blades. She says he may be late. There's been a lot of controversy involving magic items as of late. The merchants apparently have anxiety. Traveling merchants are no longer showing up to the city of Baldur's Gate, at least those who deal with magic items. She doesn't really know much about what's going on, but she does know that he would need to talk to an information broker. Of course, she warns him about the danger of doing such because, well, she's going to want a lot of coin, and she's not a person to be trifled with, the information broker. Dridian says, well, he's got information for her that she may want, and the blacksmith seems to accept this and gives him an address, and Dridian heads off, but waiting till after dark. We then move over to Flick, who's having some sort of strange issue. He's required to make a con save, then required to make a wisdom save. We are not given the reason why. There's some sort of degradation, we are told. The heck does that mean? But that's what we find out. Now, we move from Flick over to Ven. Ven is at home pumping himself up to prepare for what's to come. He's kind of giving himself that classic, you're a man now and you need to do what a man needs to do speech. We've seen that in media. And we learn that the Longstriders and the Flaming Fists aren't friends when Vidian hits the street and runs into a couple of Flaming Fists and has a stare down. Ven is on his way to the headquarters of the Longstriders, which he finds completely empty and completely abandoned. We're talking like 50 Longstriders or so are no longer there. He goes inside, goes to the basement, and we are kind of made witness to him coming upon a series of torches, and they have been snuffed out. This apparently means that whoever owns these torches are deceased. He finds his father's torch snuffed out. He finds his own torch snuffed out. Now that's interesting. He takes his torch, packs it away, and we're going to catch up with him later. We move back to Flick. Flick is heading towards a restaurant called the Sizzle Pit. The Sizzle Pit is totally not a gambling den, but it probably is. He walks in after exchanging some niceties with the very, very large bouncer, and it turns out that Flick may be a criminal. Flick might be a criminal. Flick, say it isn't so, my friend. Well, he walks back and gets to the back room where he has a conversation with a strange serpentine woman, a Yuan Ti, and he is informed we are informed that he was here to deliver a book, and he pulls out this strange book, and that's why he was on the ship in the first place, coming to Baldur's Gate. We don't really get to know much about the contents of the book because Flick has not read it, and the strange serpentine woman tells him that he needs to deliver the book to the actual owner because, well, he should have been here days ago if he wanted to get payment right now. So Flick needs to head to the Upper City, and as I guess told he needs to pray he's one of the good ones to whoever is I guess receiving the book. Kind of interesting. There's no name on the contract, by the way. Flick works on a contract basis, we discovered. That this woman, probably some sort of crime boss, has contracts for, fetch quests. And Flick is currently in the middle of the one. We don't know who wants this book, but we do know that Flick has to get the book to whoever it belongs to. So Flick heads out. Oh, we also learned that Flick's name is Flick the Fence. The Fench? The Fence. Fench. Flick the Fench. Meanwhile, we head back to Dridian, who's headed towards, well, it turns out the Sizzle Pit. So that's kind of fun. Flick and Dridian do run into each other on the street, but Dridian is so focused on what he's doing, he doesn't even notice the Kenku. And Flick, for his side, decides to not really let his appearance be known. So see ya, Flick. Dridian heads to the Sizzle Pit where he's taken to the back room, where he also gets to meet with the Yuan Ti woman. He tells her that he is looking for Murahane, a cursed blade of some sort. He needs it back from the thieves who took it, he says. Well, she tells him that the information about the sword will be 200 gold pieces. Whoa, that's a lot of money for low-level characters. Well, he has 9. Just 9. She tells him that he's going to owe her if he wants to do business in this situation, and gives him a job. Tells him that the job needs 6 people. There's no details. She does mention that she has a specialist, a certain birdman. It's Fleck. She's talking about Fleck, and then also states that she's going to be sending a companion with Dridian to accomplish this. And there we see a snake wrapping or kind of moving up Dridian's arm, and that's when Andrew reveals that Dridian can speak with animals, much to Brian's surprise. So we get a little bit of we get a moment of meeting Simeon the snake. It's always fun when a player drops the, oh, by the way, I can speak with what you didn't believe was an NPC, Dungeon Master. It's always a good time. Anyway, Dridian and Simeon agree to take the job, and they head out. We also learned, by the way, the Aranakia is the name of the Yuan-Ti woman. Aranakia. Okay, well, we head back to Asher. Asher heads to a tavern, which she names the Pineapple Surprise. It's full. She meets Chad with 2 ways. The bartender who she shows him the symbol that she's been looking around at. She asks about the loot chest, and we learn that Chad has a niece who's involved in the theater. This is a running gag. She mentions lovers and linen, not lovers and line. It's lovers and linen. Why did I say lovers and line? Oh my goodness, that's again. I am not feeling very well today. My notes are a little off. Well, anyway, Chad mentions that he loves the book Lovers and Men, and Asher tries to pretend like she's read it before, and they have a quick conversation where she learns that there's going to be a book signing. She hears someone mentions Ven's name out of nowhere, and she's talking to Chad and looks back, and there's Ven, who says surprise, and that ends the episode. And that's it. That's the end of the episode. This episode was sort of a how the other half is living. Last week's episode, we had gotten to see really spend a lot of time on Vin, Tolo, and Olavina. And this time we spent most of our view kind of centered on the others. It's all sort of like I think the intention here is obviously to see how it all comes together. So I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing more of a full casting the next episode. But we're not there yet. So let's go ahead and talk today about what I liked about this episode, what I thought was about this episode, and then what theories I have or how my theories have evolved as this has gone on. The first thing I loved, obviously, was the use of terrain and props. I'm a big fan of terrain usage. I'm a terrain-making DM, and also props are just a wonderful way to draw players in. That was very cool. But the really cool thing this episode really was the dynamic between Landry and Brian the Dungeon Master. There was a lot of improv between these two. It was very clear that these two have some training in improv acting, and we got to see that firsthand. Whenever Landry would make up a character and Brian would immediately fall into playing that character, it was a joy to see. I used to be the director of an improv comedy troupe. I'm sure I mentioned that before. And so I really like watching that in action and seeing others use those skills in action because, one, it provides a little bit of validation, but two, it's just a good time in my opinion. Now, of course, along with this came one of my favorite things that happens at a table. I say it's one of my favorites, and it's going to sound like I'm being sarcastic. I'm actually kind of not. When you improv enough at a table, we start getting what I like to call some light torturing, where your players, as a DM, your players will give you some clearly ridiculous prompts to work with, and you're kind of expected as the dungeon master to do whatever it is that's been said, to validate the fiction, and even if it makes you look completely ridiculous. The characters of Chad, the old man, this was some light torturing back and forth, and I was absolutely there for it. I had a great time. It is wonderful seeing those two work together, and I hope to see more of that in the future. In terms of moments, there really wasn't much. I mean, it's the same as last time. We didn't get the full cast. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but it's just the nature of where the story has gone at this point. And I'm sure we'll get them all back together again at some point soon. So sorry, Kari. Sorry, Sarah. We'll see you guys soon. Okay, let's talk about what I'm interested in. First of all, what does Vin's uncle want, right? At first I was thinking that maybe Vin was trying to take over the Longstriders and maybe become a dark, evil mercenary group or something, but he just shut it down. So what's that all about? And I'm also very curious about those torches, and I'm pretty sure those torches are some sort of magic item or something, like life trackers. But it's so kind of curious on how they managed to fake the death of Vin. If it is fake, maybe Vin died and forgot or something. I don't know. But or just dispel magic on the item. One of the that could also happen. Flick is a criminal. Okay, that was interesting to learn. Now going with the warlock theory, is Aranakia the warlock patron? I don't know. I'm still holding on to that warlock theory. The symbol, what's the symbol about, right? I call it the symbol of the closed eye and the open eye, but they don't technically have to be related. We were just given kind of a very thin thread to relate them to through the eyes of Dridian, but I also feel like that was on purpose, so they've got to be connected in some ways. I don't know what that bandana is about and what Dridian wants with it. Dridian's really holding those cards close to his chest, but I can't imagine that they're not connected in some way. Oh, interest. Something that was weird. Did you guys notice that when Flick and Dridian saw each other on the streets, or at least that Flick saw Dridian on the street? Flick saw Dridian on the street. Flick's no longer blind. Well, that's interesting. How'd that happen? I feel like we missed something. I'm hoping that we're going to circle back around to that later and find out what that's all about. Okay, the last thing I really am interested in is Dridian's sword. Now, in the Forgotten Realms lore, there are swords of great power that the elves had crafted a long time ago, called the Moonblades. I remember reading the series about Dan Lothan and his quest to find Moonblades while working with the Harpers. And I'm very curious. Is this a Moonblade? Is the sword that he seeks something that one of these artifacts that's maybe been twisted and corrupted? Because one thing, and I think I forgot to mention this, that Dridian mentions about his blade, is that it seems like hunger for the souls or consumes other people, and that's typically not what a Moonblade would do. So yeah, I'm very curious if we're going to get some deep dive Forgotten Realms Moonblade lore here. So okay, that's it. That's all I have for this episode. Sorry, I'm still feeling a little bit under the weather, but I do want to thank you for joining me as I talk to you about Encounter Party, episode 7. The next episode of Encounter Party will be airing, at the time of recording, it'll be Tuesday, December 26th, which is right now, actually. I know I said good morning and happy Wednesday, but I'm filming this on a Tuesday. Yeah, so 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Dungeons & Dragons Adventures Network. Odds are I won't get this up in time, so the next episode for you will be January 2nd. January 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2024 on the Dungeons & Dragons Adventures Network. I'm so sorry. I'm scattered. I'm all over the place. Anyway, I really enjoyed having you watch this today. If you enjoyed these kind of videos, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you probably very soon for my recap of the episode that airs tonight. Have a good one.